On the evening of the 20th of August, 1942, the Leicester Square Theatre in London hosted a charity gala for the RAF Benevolent Fund. The film was called The First of the Few. Leslie Howard produced it, directed it, and starred in it, playing Reginald Mitchell, the designer of the Spitfire, as a gentle, upper-class visionary who watched seagulls glide over the English Channel and turn their grace into a fighter plane. David Niven played a fictional pilot. William Walton composed the score. The final scene showed Mitchell's death, and the audience sat in respectful silence before the credits rolled. It became the most popular British film of 1942. By the 1960s, Airfix was selling 350,000 Spitfire model kits a year, 4 times more than the Hurricane, and the mythology behind those sales traces directly back to that premiere. One name was absent from the film, not a minor omission, not a supporting character left on the cutting room floor. The man who designed every Spitfire that ever fired a shot in combat was simply not there. That same evening, roughly 70 miles southwest of Leicester Square, a 45-year-old engineer named Joseph Smith sat in a requisitioned country mansion called Hursley Park. He was not watching a film. He was finalizing drawings for the Mark 12, the first Spitfire powered by the Rolls-Royce Griffon engine. He was pushing Mark 9 production to answer a crisis that was bleeding Fighter Command dry. He was developing photo reconnaissance variants that would photograph Peenemünde and the Bismarck and the broken dams of the Ruhr. The film told Britain that Mitchell's genius was a completed act. One man, one design, one sacrifice. The reality was that the Spitfire story had barely started. Mitchell died of cancer on the 11th of June, 1937. He saw only the prototype fly. Not a single production Spitfire existed when they buried him. The aircraft that fought the Battle of Britain, that clawed back air superiority from the Focke-Wulf 190, that intercepted V-1 flying bombs at 450 miles per hour, that photographed every square mile of occupied Europe from 43,000 feet. Every one of those machines came from Smith's drawing office, 24 marks, roughly 50 sub-variants. Power doubled from 1,030 horsepower to 2,050. Speed climbed from 350 to 454 miles per hour. A total of 22,685 Spitfires and Seafires rolled off production lines, all to his drawings. Mitchell has 2 statues, a memorial arts centre, 3 schools named after him, Royal Mail stamps, and a pub. Joseph Smith was born on the 25th of May, 1897, somewhere in the Birmingham area, most likely the Yardley district. No record of his parents' names or occupations survives in any public source. That blank space in the archive is itself a measure of how thoroughly history ignored him. We know more about Mitchell's childhood hobbies than we do about Smith's entire family. He attended Yardley Secondary School and then Birmingham Municipal Technical School, a practical trade education, no university, which was standard for engineers of his generation. The men who built the machines that won 2 world wars learned by doing, not by lecturing. In 1914, at 17, Smith began an apprenticeship at the Austin Motor Company in Longbridge. He was drawing engine parts while his classmates were still deciding what to do with their lives. Then the war came and interrupted everything. Smith joined the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve and served on motor launches in the Mediterranean, small, fast, loud boats that ran patrols and chased submarines in coastal waters. Not glamorous, not the kind of service that earns memorials or reunion dinners, but it put him on the water, gave him a practical understanding of engines under stress and salt corrosion, and kept him alive long enough to come home. After the armistice, he went back to Austin, this time as a junior draftsman in the aircraft department. The company was building the Austin Whippet, a single-seat light aircraft that nobody wanted to buy. It was one of dozens of optimistic post-war aviation ventures, and like most of them, it went nowhere. When Austin abandoned aviation entirely in 1920, Smith found himself unemployed with a set of skills that had no obvious home. Car factories did not need aviation draftsmen. The RAF was shrinking fast. Most of the wartime aircraft companies were already gone. In 1921, he walked into Supermarine Aviation Works in Southampton and got a job as a senior draftsman. The company was small, ambitious, and run by a young chief designer named Reginald Mitchell, who had an explosive temper and no patience for mediocrity. Apprentices at Supermarine were told to watch the color of Mitchell's neck and to run if it turned red. Smith apparently never needed to run. He was quiet, precise, and fast. Exactly the kind of man Mitchell needed beside him. When Chief Draftsman Frank Holroyd was promoted to Assistant Chief Engineer in 1926, Smith stepped into the role at 29. He now supervised a staff of 38, and his fingerprints were on every Supermarine design of the late 20s and 30s. That included the Schneider Trophy Racing seaplanes, the S5, the S6, the S6B, which were the direct ancestors of the Spitfire. These were not production aircraft. They were hand-built, temperamental, dangerously fast machines designed to win international speed races over the Solent. The S6B won the trophy outright for Britain in 1931 and then set a world speed record of 407 miles per hour, a number that would have sounded like science fiction to the biplane pilots of the RAF. Mitchell drew the concepts. Smith turned those concepts into metal that could survive the stresses of racing at 400 miles per hour a few feet above the water. His specific contribution was structure and production drawings, the painstaking, unglamorous translation of genius into buildable hardware. If a wing spar needed to carry loads that no textbook had calculated, Smith's office worked out the numbers. If a cooling system had to dissipate heat from an engine producing over 1,900 horsepower in a fuselage the size of a coffin, Smith's draftsmen drew the ducting. For 15 years, Smith was Mitchell's right hand. He knew every rivet pattern, every stress calculation, every shortcut that worked and every one that did not. When Mitchell began designing the Type 300, the aircraft that would become the Spitfire, Smith's team prepared the working drawings. When the Air Ministry questioned whether Supermarine could actually manufacture a modern, stressed-skin monoplane fighter, it was Smith's drawing office that proved they could. The Royal Aeronautical Society's obituary, written after Smith's death in 1956, described his character with unusual honesty, and he possessed, they wrote, the greatest possible distaste for any personal publicity. Public appearances as a principal figure were ordeals to be faced, yet privately he was the life and soul of the party, with unfailing good humor and a lively wit that surprised people who only knew the reserved professional. Geoffrey Quill, Supermarine's chief test pilot, the second man to ever fly the Spitfire, and a man not given to empty praise, delivered the verdict that became Smith's only lasting epitaph. If Mitchell was born to design the Spitfire, he said, Joe Smith was born to defend and develop it. Nobody in 1937 could have known how prophetic those words would turn out to be. Mitchell died on the 11th of June 1937 at the age of 42. The Spitfire prototype had been flying for just over a year. The first production order, 310 aircraft, had been placed on the 3rd of June 1936, with a promise from Supermarine's chairman Sir Robert McLean that 5 machines would roll off the line every week within 15 months. That promise was already falling apart. The prototype was hand-built and beautiful, Turning it into something a factory could reproduce thousands of times was a completely different problem, and Mitchell had not lived long enough to solve it. The job of chief designer did not go to Smith. It went to Major Harold Payne, a Vickers appointee who had been placed at Supermarine in 1931 as Mitchell's technical assistant. Payne was the designated heir. Smith, as chief draftsman, was the senior man in the drawing office, but not the man Vickers had chosen. Above both of them sat Rex Pearson, chief designer at Vickers Armstrong's Weybridge Works, home of the Wellington bomber, who became the nominal senior design authority for all Vickers Armstrong's aircraft. Supermarine was not independent. Vickers had bought it in 1928, and in October 1938, the company was reorganized into Vickers Armstrong's Aircraft Limited under Sir Charles Craven. Maclean, the man who had named the Spitfire after his daughter Annie's nickname, Little Spitfire, and who had personally authorized Mitchell's Type 300 design, was pushed out in the reorganization. Then September 1939 arrived, and with it a security review that changed everything. Investigators discovered that Payne had a German-born wife. In peacetime, this was a private matter. In wartime, with the head of Britain's most critical fighter program holding classified drawings of the aircraft the RAF depended on for survival, it was unacceptable. Payne was removed. Smith was appointed acting manager of the design department. He was 42 years old. He would not receive the formal title of chief designer until 1941, after the Ministry of Aircraft Production approved the appointment. For nearly 2 years he ran the program without the rank. The challenge waiting for him was not personal. Nobody questioned his competence. The challenge was mechanical. Mitchell's prototype, K5054, had first flown on the 5th of March, 1936, at Eastleigh Aerodrome. Captain Joseph Summers, known to everyone as Mutt, piloted that maiden flight for 8 minutes with the undercarriage locked down. His famous instruction after landing was "do not touch anything," and it has been misquoted ever since as praise. What Summers actually meant was that he wanted the control settings preserved exactly as they were so the engineers could analyze them. The aircraft was promising, not perfect. It carried a Merlin C producing roughly 950 horsepower, reached about 350 miles per hour, and had no guns. K5054 was destroyed in a fatal landing accident on the 4th of September 1939, one day after Britain declared war on Germany. The prototype was gone before the war even properly started. Converting that prototype into a mass-produced fighter had already exposed the scale of the problem. The first production Spitfire, serial K9787, did not fly until the 15th of May, 1938, nearly 24 months after the order was placed, not 15. The final cost came in at £1,533, more per aircraft than the estimate. One source described the process as effectively requiring a full new set of design drawings. The hand-formed panels and bespoke fittings of the prototype had to be redesigned for jigs and production tooling. Mitchell's elegant curves needed to become repeatable geometry. Every change had to preserve the aerodynamics, while making the structure buildable by workers who had never seen the original. Smith also faced a threat that could have ended the Spitfire entirely. In 1939, the Air Ministry considered removing Spitfire production from Supermarine altogether. The proposal was to hand the factory over to Bristol and have it build Beaufighters instead. The logic was industrial efficiency. Supermarine was behind schedule, and the Beaufighter was a proven design that could be produced faster. Smith and the Vickers management fought this proposal with what colleagues later described as pragmatic view and political astuteness. They won. Had they lost, there would have been no Mark V, no Mark IX, no Griffon-powered interceptors, no photo reconnaissance variants. The Spitfire would have frozen at the Mark II, and the aircraft that fought from Malta to Normandy to Burma would never have existed. Every Spitfire that followed, all 22,000 of them, existed because Smith kept the program alive at the moment it was most vulnerable. The production problems were eventually solved, but not by magic. Smith reorganized the drawing office, tightened the relationship between design and manufacturing, and established a system where modifications could be introduced into the production line without stopping it. This mattered enormously because the Spitfire was about to enter a war that would demand constant evolution. An aircraft that stayed the same for 6 months would be obsolete. Smith understood this before most of his contemporaries, that designing the Spitfire was not a single act, but a continuous process, and that the man who controlled that process controlled the aircraft's fate. Mitchell designed one aircraft, the Type 300 prototype K5054, with a Merlin C engine and no weapons, and a top speed of 350 miles per hour. Everything that came after, every mark, every sub-variant, every engine swap, every redesigned wing spar and cannon installation and cooling duct, was Joseph Smith's work. We covered the Merlin engine in our video about Stanley Hooker, the supercharger genius who made the Spitfire fast. This is the story of the man who made the Spitfire everything else. The numbers alone tell a story that no biography has bothered to write properly. Over 12 years, Smith pushed the Spitfire through 24 marks and roughly 50 sub-variants. Horsepower doubled from 1,030 to 2,050. Top speed climbed from 362 to 454 miles per hour. Empty weight grew from 5,065 pounds to 7,122. The aircraft went from a short-range daylight interceptor armed with rifle-caliber machine guns to a multi-role weapons platform carrying 4 20mm cannon, rockets, bombs, and drop tanks, operating from sea level to 43,000 feet in rolls from ground attack to pressurized photo reconnaissance. And through all of that, the elliptical wing silhouette remained recognizable. That was the trick, not revolution, but relentless evolution within the same basic airframe. Imagine buying a family saloon in 1936 and having the same engineer modify it year after year, until by 1948 it was a racing car twice as heavy, twice as fast, with a completely different engine, but still unmistakably the same vehicle. The Merlin years came first. The production Mark I required Smith to redesign virtually every construction detail of the prototype. Ejector exhaust stacks replaced the flush originals. A tailwheel replaced the fixed skid. Armour plate went behind the pilot's seat. 8.303 Browning machine guns were fitted in what Supermarine called the A-wing configuration. 4 in each wing, fed by 300 rounds per gun, giving roughly 16 seconds of firing time. The Merlin 2 and 3 engines delivered 1,030 horsepower for a top speed of about 362 miles per hour in operational trim, which was somewhat less than the prototype because operational aircraft carry weight that prototypes do not. Radios, armour, gun mountings, ammunition, paint. The first production Spitfire reached number 19 Squadron at Duxford on the 4th of August 1938. Approximately 1,566 Mark Is were built. The Mark II, produced exclusively at the Castle Bromwich Shadow Factory near Birmingham, introduced the Merlin 12 with 1,175 horsepower and a Kaufman cartridge starter that replaced the hand-cranked external starter trolley. Around 920 were built. These were incremental improvements. More power, better reliability, nothing radical. The Mark V was where Smith's approach became visible. The Merlin 45 pushed output to 1,440 horsepower, good for about 370 miles per hour. But the real innovation was not speed. Smith introduced the universal Sea-Wing, which could be configured with 4 20mm cannon, or 2 cannon and 4 machine guns, or various mixed arrangements depending on the mission. He added bomb racks for 250-pound bombs, tropical filters for desert operations, long-range drop tanks for extended patrols, and the option of clipped wingtips that traded some high-altitude performance for a sharper roll rate at low level. One airframe, multiple configurations. 6,479 Mark Vs were built across 3 subvariants, the most produced of any single Mark at that point. The Mark V was the Spitfire that fought over Malta, over North Africa, over France. It was also the Spitfire that got outclassed. The Griffon revolution was the harder engineering problem. The Rolls-Royce Griffon displaced 36.7 litres compared to the Merlin's 27, a third larger. It was physically longer and heavier, and it rotated in the opposite direction. A Merlin Spitfire swung left on takeoff from the engine torque. A Griffon Spitfire swung right. This sounds like a minor detail. For a pilot who had spent 2 years flying Merlin Spitfires and had trained his reflexes to compensate in one direction, it was a potentially fatal surprise on the first takeoff. The propeller was larger and heavier too, a 5-bladed Rottol unit on the definitive Marks, compared to the 3-blade units of the early Merlins. Smith fitted the Griffon into the existing airframe without redesigning the fuselage from scratch. The Mark 12 was the first production Griffon variant, a single-stage Griffon 3 or 4, producing 1,735 horsepower, with clipped wings as standard, superb at low and medium altitudes. Only 100 were built, entering service in February 1943 with 41 Squadron. It was a specialist, not a general-purpose fighter. The Mark 14 was the breakthrough, a 2-stage Griffon 65, delivering 2,050 horsepower through that 5-bladed propeller. Top speed reached 448 miles per hour at 24,500 feet. Rate of climb hit 4,580 feet per minute, roughly a mile every 70 seconds from a standing start. Later production introduced the teardrop bubble canopy with a cut-back rear fuselage, giving pilots rearward visibility they had never had in a Spitfire. 957 Mark 14s were built, entering service with 610 Squadron in January 1944. Pilots who flew it after years in Merlin Spitfires said it felt like a different aircraft with a familiar face. The final Mark, the 24, bore almost no structural resemblance to Mitchell's prototype. Loaded weight had nearly doubled to 10,100 pounds. It carried 4 20mm Hispano cannon plus rockets. The wing had been completely redesigned for the Mark 21 series, 47% stiffer, with the aileron reversal speed raised from 580 to 825 miles per hour. The Mark 21 was so different that it was nearly renamed Victor, a new name for what was effectively a new aircraft wearing the Spitfire's silhouette. Only 81 Mark 24s were built, the last delivered in February 1948. Jeffrey Quill's assessment was blunt. The genius passed on by Mitchell had gone, he wrote. The beautiful symmetry had disappeared. In its place stood a powerful, almost ugly fighting machine. While all of this was happening, Smith was simultaneously running parallel development tracks that would have overwhelmed most design offices. The Seafire naval variants, Spitfires modified for carrier operations with folding wings, arrestor hooks and reinforced undercarriage, reached approximately 2,300 and 34 aircraft across 9 marks. The final Seafire 47 had contra-rotating propellers to eliminate the torque swing that made carrier landings in single-propeller Griffon aircraft so dangerous. The pressurized high-altitude interceptors, Mark 6 and 7, were built for a threat that never fully materialized but had to be prepared for. And the photo reconnaissance series quietly became one of the most consequential aircraft programs of the entire war. The PR Mark 19, powered by a Griffon 66, reached 457 miles per hour and a ceiling above 43,000 feet, so high and so fast that even Messerschmitt 262 jets struggled to intercept it. The last operational Spitfire sortie in RAF service was flown by a PR-19, serial PS-888, from 81 Squadron at RAF Seletar in Singapore on the 1st of April 1954. After the war, Smith bridged the gap between pistons and jets. The Supermarine Spiteful introduced a laminar flow wing and wide track undercarriage, solving the Spitfire's notoriously narrow landing gear that had caused so many ground accidents. The Supermarine Attacker, essentially a jet-powered Spiteful wing, mated to a new fuselage carrying a Rolls-Royce Nene turbojet, became the first jet fighter in Fleet Air Arm service in August 1951. Smith also oversaw the swept-wing Type 510 and the Supermarine Swift, which broke the world absolute speed record at 737.7 miles per hour on the 26th of September 1953. From a 350 mile per hour prototype with no guns to a jet age record breaker, one design office, one chief designer, one continuous thread of engineering. The total production number is the final word. Roughly 20,351 Spitfires and 2,334 Seafires. 22,685 aircraft, every single one built to drawings that came from Joseph Smith's office at Hursley Park. The Focke-Wulf 190 arrived on the Western Front in August 1941, and it arrived like a slap across the face. The second group of Jagdgeschwader 26 took delivery of the new fighters, and by mid-September they were in combat, in serious numbers. The results were not close. The FW-190 outperformed the Spitfire, Mark V in every measurable category, except turning radius. It was 25 to 35 miles per hour, faster at all altitudes. It climbed better, it dived better, it accelerated harder, it rolled faster. Air Vice Marshal Johnny Johnson, the RAF's highest scoring fighter ace with 34 confirmed victories, was blunt about it. "We could outturn it," he said, "but you cannot turn all day." As the number of 190s increased, so the depth of our penetrations decreased. They drove us back to the coast. By November 1941, the RAF was forced to scale back most daytime offensive operations over occupied France. Over 2 days in early June 1942, FW-190s of JG-26 shot down 15 Spitfire Mark Vs without losing a single aircraft. 15 to nil. Fighter Command was losing the air war over the Channel. Smith's response demonstrated everything that made him effective. Not brilliance in the romantic sense, but a ruthless clarity about what mattered and what could wait. Rolls-Royce had been testing the Merlin 61, fitted with a 2-stage 2-speed supercharger, since the summer of 1941. The proper engineering solution was the purpose-built Mark 7 and Mark 8, with redesigned fuselages built from the ground up for the bigger engine. That would take over a year to reach production. Smith did not have a year. Pilots were going down over France every week. His solution was elegant in the way that emergency surgery is elegant, fast, effective, and not pretty. Take the existing Mark V C airframe. Fit the Merlin 61 with minimum structural changes. Lengthen the nose section to accommodate the longer engine. Add symmetric twin radiators with an intercooler in the starboard wing duct. Replace the 3-blade propeller with a 4-blade unit. Strengthen the engine mounts. Add 10 extra gallons of fuel. Do not redesign the fuselage. Do not wait for the ideal solution. Get it flying. The first Mark 9 prototype, converted from Mark 5C airframe AB505, flew on the 26th of February, 1942. Production began in June. Number 64 Squadron became operational at Hornchurch in July 1942. On the 30th of July, Flight Lieutenant Donald Kingerby scored the first Mark 9 combat victory, destroying an FW-190. From the moment of crisis to an operational squadron, roughly 10 months. Like Ed Heinemann, who we covered building the Dauntless and Skyhawk, Smith was an engineer who solved problems not by starting over, but by making what existed work harder. The confirmation came from an unlikely source. On the 23rd of June, 1942, Oberleutnant Armin Faber of the 3rd Group of Jagdgeschwader II got disoriented after a dogfight, mistook the Bristol Channel for the English Channel, and landed his intact Focke-Wulf 190A3 at RAF Pembrey in South Wales. The duty pilot, a sergeant named Jeffries, captured the bewildered German with a flare pistol. The RAF tested the aircraft exhaustively against the Mark 9. The two fighters were closely comparable across the entire performance envelope, with the Spitfire retaining its turning advantage. Parity restored. The stopgap refused to stop. 5,665 Mark 9s were eventually produced, the most numerous single Spitfire variant. It served from North Africa to Normandy and beyond. On the 5th of October, 1944, Mark 9s of 401 Squadron became the first Allied aircraft to shoot down a Messerschmitt 262 jet. Malta tested the Spitfire far from Smith's workshops. Operation Calendar in April 1942 launched 47 Mark 5s from USS Wasp and HMS Eagle. Within 24 hours, only 19 remained serviceable. Guns inoperable, radios faulty, no ground organization. The repeat operation, Bowery, on the 9th of May, was transformed. HMS Welshman raced ahead with 100 spare Merlin engines. 61 of 64 Spitfires arrived safely. One was rearmed and airborne within 6 minutes of landing. The incoming Italian formation lost 47 aircraft for 3 Spitfires. The daylight bombing of Malta was finished. By D-Day, approximately 55 Spitfire squadrons were committed to the invasion. Mark 9s as fighter bombers, Mark 16s with Packard Merlins, Mark 7s for high-altitude cover, Griffon-powered 14s, PR-11s for reconnaissance. The Luftwaffe managed 319 sorties against the RAF's 5,656. Just 2 Focke-Wulf 190s appeared over the beaches. The ace Josef Priller and his wingman, alone against the largest aerial armada ever assembled. The V-1 flying bombs brought the Griffon Spitfire its defining mission. Number 91 Squadron began anti-diver patrols on the 16th of June 1944 and ultimately destroyed 167 V-1s. Across all units, Mark 14s accounted for over 300 kills. On the 23rd of June, Australian flight officer Kenneth Collier of 91 Squadron, out of ammunition, maneuvered his wingtip beneath a V-1's wing and flipped it off course at 400 miles per hour. Nerve, precision, and a very steady hand. The quietest contribution may have been the largest. Smith's photo reconnaissance Spitfires captured over 26 million photographs during the war, an estimated 80% of all Allied photographic intelligence. In May 1941, pilot officer Michael Suckling photographed the Bismarck at anchor in Grimstad Fjord from 26,000 feet. the images Churchill ordered published. In 1942, PR Spitfires brought back the first photographs of Peenemünde, revealing V-2 rockets on trailers and leading to the Hydra bombing raid that delayed the program by weeks. After the Dam Busters raid, it was a PR Mark 9 flown by Flying Officer Frey that captured the shattered Mona and Ida dams, images that became some of the most iconic of the entire war. Smith received a CBE in 1946. That is worth pausing on, not for the honor itself, but for the comparison. Mitchell had received his CBE 15 years earlier, in 1931, for peacetime Schneider Trophy racing. Smith's came for 6 years of wartime service, during which he kept the most important fighter aircraft in British history competitive against every opponent the Luftwaffe produced, managed the design of 22,000 airframes across 24 marks, and bridged the transition from piston to jet propulsion. Same letters after the name, rather different contributions. He was elected a Fellow of the Royal Aeronautical Society and received its silver medal in 1950. After his death, the Society awarded him its highest honour, the British Gold Medal, posthumously in 1956 for work of an outstanding nature in aeronautics. He was never knighted. His contemporaries were. Sir Sidney Cam designed the Hurricane and the Harrier and received his knighthood in 1953. Sir Barnes Wallis designed the Bouncing Bomb and the Geodetic airframe. Sir George Edwards, who succeeded Smith in the broader Vickers organisation, received his knighthood for work that built directly on the foundations Smith had laid. Smith remained plain Mr. for the rest of his life, and nobody in any official capacity appears to have thought this was wrong. The recognition scoreboard between Mitchell and Smith reads less like an oversight and more like a deliberate act of erasure. Mitchell has 2 statues, one in Hanley, Stoke-on-Trent, unveiled on the 21st of May 1995, and another at the Science Museum in London in 2005. He has a Memorial Arts Centre opened on the 28th of October 1957 by Group Captain Douglas Bader, funded by more than £50,000 in public subscriptions, a significant sum for 1950s Britain, equivalent to over £1 million today. He has at least 3 schools bearing his name. He has Reginald Mitchell Way in Tunstall. He has Royal Mail stamps issued in 1995 and 1997. He was inducted into the International Air and Space Hall of Fame in 1986. He has an entry in Encyclopaedia Britannica. He has a J.D. Wetherspoon pub in Hanley, which is not the most dignified form of memorial, but it is more than Joseph Smith ever received. Smith has no statue, no memorial building, no school, no road, no plaque, no stamp, no Hall of Fame induction, no encyclopedia entry, no pub. The one book written about him, Mike Roussell's Spitfire's Forgotten Designer, published in 2013, was criticized by reviewers for going 20 or more pages between mentions of the man whose name was in the title. Not even the book about him managed to be about him. Why did this happen? The Royal Aeronautical Society's obituary provides the clearest answer. Smith possessed, they wrote, the greatest possible distaste for any personal publicity. He never sought recognition and apparently never complained about its absence. He did his work, managed his teams, solved the engineering problems, and went home. He was not the kind of man who writes memoirs, or gives interviews, or positions himself for honours. In a world that rewards self-promotion, he offered none. The Mitchell myth was also frankly perfect. A solitary visionary who poured his fading life into a single aircraft and died at 42 without seeing it fly in combat. That is the story that films are made of, and a film was indeed made. Smith, by contrast, was a corporate engineer who survived the war, continued working on jets and swept-wing research, and passed away from cancer at 58 in comfortable Hampshire obscurity. His story had no cinematic arc, no tragic early death, no scene where the dying genius watches seagulls and dreams of speed. Just 12 years of relentless, competent, unglamorous work that happened to keep the Spitfire alive. And then Leslie Howard sealed it shut. Howard's portrayal of Mitchell in the first of the few told the British public in the middle of a war that one man had created their most beloved weapon. The film played in every cinema in the country. It shaped how an entire generation understood the Spitfire's origins. And when Howard himself was lost on the 1st of June 1943, his civilian BOAC flight from Lisbon, shot down by Luftwaffe Junkers 88s over the Bay of Biscay, the actor became permanently fused with the designer he had played, a martyred star, memorializing a martyred engineer. The myth now had two deaths protecting it, and the living engineer who was actually doing the work became invisible behind a double wall of grief and legend. The colleagues who wrote Smith's obituary for the Royal Aeronautical Society came as close as professional decorum allowed to acknowledging what had happened. It was not easy to follow in the footsteps of a genius, they wrote, but Joe Smith had exactly the right capabilities to tackle the development problems involved. The measure by which he succeeded in carrying out his task is the conviction in the minds of those of us who worked with him that Mitchell would have been well satisfied with what was achieved. That last line was the most they could say. Mitchell would have been satisfied. The man who did the work would have to settle for that. Joseph Smith died of cancer on the 20th of February 1956 at Chandler's Ford in Hampshire. He was 58 years old. Alan Clifton, his longtime head of the technical office, succeeded him as chief designer. Supermarine continued under the Vickers Armstrong's umbrella for a few more years, producing the Swift and the Scimitar, before being absorbed into the British Aircraft Corporation in 1960 and eventually into BAE Systems. The name Supermarine disappeared from aviation entirely. No one fought particularly hard to save it. The reassessment has started, but it moves at the pace of academic publishing rather than public memory. Paul Beaver gave Smith proper credit in Spitfire People in 2015. The anonymous historians behind the Supermariner's blog have done meticulous work reconstructing his contributions from primary sources. Geoffrey Quill's memoirs, Spitfire, A Test Pilot's Story, in 1983, and Birth of a Legend in 1986, remain the most authoritative first-hand accounts of the Smith and Quill partnership that drove Spitfire development through the war years. The Spitfire Club in Oxfordshire dedicated a tribute replica Spitfire to Smith in 2017. The Imperial War Museum holds audio recordings from Harry Griffiths, a supermarine metallurgist who worked there from 1928 to 1958, containing first-hand memories of Joe Smith and the design office he ran. These are fragments, individual acts of correction scattered across decades. They have not changed the public story. Ask anyone on the street who designed the Spitfire, and the answer will be Mitchell. It was Mitchell in 1942, and it is Mitchell now. Of the roughly 50 airworthy Spitfires flying today, virtually all are Smith-designed marks. 5s, 9s, 14s, 16s, 19s. The Mark 1s and 2s closest to Mitchell's original are the rarest survivors. Every Spitfire that draws crowds at summer air shows, every Merlin or Griffon engine note that makes people stop and look up over English fields. That is Joseph Smith's engineering, kept alive by restorers who may not know his name. On the evening of the 20th of August, 1942, a film told Britain that one man created the Spitfire. The audience believed it. They still believe it. Mitchell designed a prototype that flew at 350 miles per hour with no guns. Smith transformed that prototype into a family of 22,685 aircraft, serving in every role from ground attack to pressurized reconnaissance at 43,000 feet, with 4 cannon, rockets, bombs, and speeds approaching 460 miles per hour. He kept the Spitfire competitive against every fighter the Luftwaffe produced, from the Messerschmitt 109 to the 262 jet. He bridged the piston age to the jet age, designing the Fleet Air Arm's first jet fighter. He did all of this while a feature film playing in every cinema in the country told the world that someone else had done it all. The elliptical wing belongs to Mitchell. Everything underneath it, the engine installations, the armament, the structural reinforcement, the cooling systems, the landing gear, the 24 marks that turned an interceptor into a weapon system spanning every theater of the Second World War, belongs to Joseph Smith. His name does not appear on a single memorial in the country he helped save.